In September 2019, Architecturies held a week-long festival in Bath, discussing, debating and challenging how we can make a city that's good for the body, mind and soul. This film underlines how human well-being and planetary well-being are inextricably linked and suggests ways to design for both outcomes.
What is the basis of health? The source of all human health. And of course, that's the source of our health. Without that, there is no health. And as Thomas Berry, the theologian, says, you can't have healthy people on a sick planet. And he went on to say, and that's what we're trying to do. With all our technologies, we're trying to have healthy people on a sick planet.
Environmental quality is absolutely the basis for all other actions. So you can't successfully have initiatives to improve lifestyle and health and well-being unless you have clean air, clean water, clean soil, safe surroundings.
And we're very often using the elements and we're using the senses, and by doing that we're making people more aware of their environment, and by making them more aware of their environment we're making them more aware of our current situation with a changing climate.
Cities are maybe getting a little bit better, or some cities are getting better at bringing greenery into cities, which is a welcome thing, although there's places like Sheffield where Capita are cutting down all the trees, so we need to address that as a challenge. But broadly speaking, there's a general consensus that trees and nature are good for cities, good for the environment and good for the human as well.
You may have seen we've just finished our annual walking festival last week. We do a week-long walking festival each year. We had about 1,000 walkers this year, enjoying 50 walks over the week, ranging from a few hundred yards to over 20 miles. And one thing we get from this is good feedback from people for what they like and why they do or don't access the countryside by themselves. We do particular themes, so we've had some health themes on there. We've had mindfulness walks, we've had feel-good walks, walks about death, we've had Are You Happy walks in the past. So to try and tease out some interesting subjects within it. Just to finish up, we've inherited a kind of fantastic city, a landscape city, if you will, where key buildings were designed to reflect the landscape, to get views out of the city to the countryside. But we're still building. We still have the now. I'm not sure we do that quite as much, but this is Mulberry Park, which has been mentioned today, and this is Backstone's Site of Nature Conservation Interest, which is immediately adjacent to it. It's more kind of accidental, it seems now, for a lot of green space. So this is actually separated from that development by a wall. The council do mow pass through it, trying to encourage people to use it. But for us, it's this kind of more connected green infrastructure that allows us to get people out of their houses into their immediate green spaces and beyond into the wider city.
It comes back to political leadership. If there is nobody in central government that has a mandate for parks and green spaces, for example.
And fundamentally, we've forgotten, through design, through planning, through how we manage our day-to-day lives, what nature actually gives us. It's pretty fundamental. It gives us air to breathe, water to drink, food to eat, medicines to heal, inspires us, and it creates a world for us to explore and live in. Pretty, the basics of life, and yet, we put them at the bottom of the heap in terms of when we're typically thinking about if we're going to build a new development. But people are trying around the world to do that. There's some amazing sort of architectural developments in Bali by Ibuku, the designers, using bamboo. It's very clear, it's better for our health. If we get the right access, we can live longer. And it's such a significant sort of body of information there now that we can work with. So there's lots of theories going on, but meanwhile, lots of cities around the world are grasping the nettle of climate change and how do they set up a future. Melbourne is a really interesting one. Living Melbourne is this sort of new sort of program that they've got going, which is basically about how do they restore some stability to an environment that is actually going to be heated beyond sort of human comfort unless they do something about it. And the interesting strategies coming out, frameworks, healthy people, etc., natural infrastructure. There's interesting diagrams to add to the ones we've already seen. And I was really fascinated by the metrics they're applying to some of the landscape planning to sort of judge and assess what our landscape is giving it. And then in there you'll see medicinal value rating, healthy people rating, heat island urban cooling rating. Really interesting, different metrics for us to use in the way we go forward.
We told a story, because that's what we always do, about 3 waves that came to Dover. And the 3 waves was a wave called a lifting wave that lifted you up to the esplanade, a wave called the resting wave that protected you from the wind and gave you somewhere to sit, and a wave called the lighting wave. So there were 3 waves. And then we put plants in it. We did the planting with the community.
Every space in the building is focused on the environment, so you can really feel the connection with a kind of primal landscape that it's in.
We've got a few minutes to talk about Singapore because we've been working there for many years, and they have entirely defined the way they structure their urban environment around this idea of landscape and city in a garden. In fact, they're now starting to look at calling it a city in nature. Basically, every building in Singapore that's built now has to sort of deliver a certain quantum of green space, whether it's on the roof, on the vertical faces, and how it sort of creates spaces for the community.
There's a growing acceptance now, of course. This link between green spaces and health is generally accepted. We have, as I say, this kind of change of our health issues within that. Obesity, mental health becoming more to the fore. Within the area, we do better than the national average, which is pleasing, but not something we're going to sit on our laurels about.
Reinvent the green space, celebrate the water, and create the most amazing art framework. And that's my vision.